Good afternoon, race fans. Welcome here as we continue on the debut season of the NRSL Winston SuperSpeedway Series, getting ready for race number 6, entering into the second half of our regular season. I guess you could technically call this the beginning of the chase towards the chase for the championship, as we are getting ready for 26 laps of racing at the Coca-Cola Speedway. I looked back, it has been since June 26th, 2016, the last time that we ran at this track on this channel. That is a long, long time. Nice to be back here at this super speedway, and this track, as I recall, has brought about some really good racing. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't been here for over a year and a half. Who knows? Maybe if we get a good race here today, we may see this back on the schedule for an upcoming series, either Tax Layer Truck Series, Pizza X Series, Hershey's Cup Series. We'll have to wait and see. But these drivers here today, they are on the goal of trying to get themselves either into the top 10 in points or in position for one of two wild card positions, because after this race, only 4 races remaining until the 5-race playoffs. On the front row, you've got Phil Parker in the 71, and alongside of him is Patrick Smith in the 98. Phil Parker comes into this race 13th in the points, and he has a shot here today to move into the top 10 in the standings. Patrick Smith, on the other hand, he's 24th in the point stand, so he's got a little bit more work to do, but both still have a shot of putting themselves in contention for the playoffs.
Is this on? Drivers, start your engines!
Well, that guy's 5 seconds of fame were not exactly anything to remember, as we're getting set here for the pacing. Pace car will lead us around, and as he does that, why don't we give you your top 10 in the point stands and your wildcard drivers currently coming into this race. Right now, Steve Morgan is still the points leader, 9 points in hand over Zachary Fitzwater. 2-time winner Zach Rogers is 15 points back in 3rd. A Navarro is 16 points back in 4th, and Ashlyn Boyd currently 5th, 17 points out. The rest of the top 10 in the standings are completed by Joseph Srigley, Levi McIntyre, Alex Gray, Justin Zajdel, and Kyle Keith. Those would be the drivers. If the season were to end now and we begin the playoffs, that would make it in via top 10 the points. Right now, the 2 wildcard spots going to our 2 previous race winners from Hillside and last week at M&M's. Benjamin Miles would have wildcard spot number 1. He's 26th in points. Diego Yepez is 27th in points. He would get the second wildcard spot, since both those drivers currently are inside of the top 30 in the standings. So right now, as things stand, all 4 former winners this season would currently be in the playoffs. For Miles and Yepez, they would like to remain in the top 30 in points and maybe get a good run here today to move themselves even higher up in the point standings to have their chance of making the playoffs a greater possibility. You see Benjamin Miles going to be rolling off from the 7th position, so Diego Yepez will be starting further back in the field. So we'll have to see how soon he makes his way to the front. And of course, if we have another different winner go to victory lane here today, that could certainly shuffle things up in terms of the battle for the wild card position as well. But 26 laps await us here at the Coca-Cola Speedway. Great to be back here at this racetrack. Let's hope these drivers are able to put on a show. Phil Parker, Patrick Smith bring us down. Race number 6 of the NRSL Winston SuperSpeedway Series is green. Outside line was formulated a little bit better with Dylan Young pushing Patrick Smith, and Smith will go to the lead. Now they'll settle it out amongst themselves from second on back as the 98 with a good advantage right at the moment, about maybe 2 car lengths in hand over a maybe 3 wide situation. Well, nope, it was going to be 3 wide, but Dylan Young also gets the outside line going there on the back straightaway, and so the 2 will slot into P2. That now puts the battle on between Z Winkle in the 97 and the 73 of B Carmichael, and now you see A Garcia in the 5 switching some lanes there, trying to see if a lane will open up. Thought we might have had a wreck, but I guess the field's just so clumped up together, it looks smaller than it should be. Kyle Keith you saw there at the very tail end of the field, and Brenna Carmichael, a big run there out of turn 2. Oh, got a car down the apron. That's the 23 of J Shelly. I don't know if there was any contact or not, but whatever the case, he is going to get it back on the racing surface, and they're going to be 4 wide, and there's a wreck. Big wreck here. Oh, there goes the 94 of Zajdel. Shelly's going to get involved. J Bryant is in it, as well as Dallas McIntosh. One car's flipping. That's I Nicholls. Tim Walsh was collected. Levi McIntyre, Z Flickinger, the pole sitter Parker, as well as the 55 of J Jefferson. A Carmichael leads us back here to our first caution of the day. Big wreck taking place in the entrance of 3 over into the middle of 3 and 4. Big wreck, and a number of drivers who were running pretty well in the point standings collected up in this one. McIntyre was 7th in points, Zajdel was 9th, McIntosh 11th, Flickinger 12th, Parker 13th. And they were all involved, and I think there were very few drivers that got a piece of that did not get some very significant damage, and it could be a very early end to their day here at the Coca-Cola Speedway. A Carmichael, though, out in front, showing the way here. Now, with 26 laps, I don't know what the fuel window would be, so would these drivers be wanting to use this caution to come to pit road rather than pit under green? Looks like there's the answer to that question. Everybody's going to come to pit road here under this maybe only yellow flag of the day, and I think that's why these drivers are coming to pit road, just in case we do not see the yellow flag fly during the rest of this race. There is I Nicholls in the 12. Looks like he took the wildest ride of anybody, and we're going to get an in-depth look of it in just a minute now, as we're going to step aside and take a look at a replay of our first caution of the day here at Coca-Cola. I have to assume that this whole thing started maybe with the pole sitter Phil Parker, who was involved, and he appeared to be the highest running of the drivers that were involved in the wreck. He's got the 55 of J Jefferson down to his inside, and we know that Jefferson was involved as well, so there might be some contact between these two that triggers the beginning of this wreck up in 3. Let's look right here, and yeah, Jefferson's just kind of crowding Phil Parker up into the wall. And something's got to give, and something certainly did. Wow, look at how the 71 goes up and into the air there. Up and onto the outside wall for a moment. McIntyre gets spun around further down as everybody was trying to avoid. We'll get to that in a moment. Flickinger in the 6 got through that incident there with Jefferson and Parker, but he's going to get involved in something further up here, as we'll notice in just a moment. But yeah, there was just crowding, not giving room going down to 3, and they were 4 wide behind them, which I thought was going to be a potential wreck, but it was a 3 wide situation up ahead here involving the pole sitter. Now let's go to the 99 of Levi McIntyre, because I think he was the next car to break loose, which continued on this wreck. Oh yeah, watch here. You'll see a little bit further back that McDonald's Ford of Justin Zajdel. Watch here as Levi McIntyre is on the brakes to avoid. Zajdel does not get on the brakes. McIntyre kind of comes down into Zajdel's racing line, and also collected right there is the 12 of I Nicholls. Now, Nicholls I don't think gets involved until a little bit later. Right here, he's going to have some contact between himself and Tim Walsh. And, oh, and right there with that transition from the high banking down to the flat apron was what got the 12 up and over. And we already had kind of seen in live time the contact with J Bryant, Dallas McIntosh, and J Shelly. We'll look at it one more time in just a moment, though. But it's a wild ride there for Nicholls. The transition from the banking down to the apron is just so significant that you saw a couple of drivers kind of wheel hop when they got down there on the apron. Here you see, yeah, there's just nowhere to go. I don't know where the initial contact begins. Maybe the 28 gets the apron. It might come up into the 23. Yeah, looks like that's the case. And nowhere for J Bryant to go. He gets swept up in it as well. Look at the hit right there for McIntosh as well as Shelly, both nosing it into the outside retaining wall. And a little contact right there as well for the 90 of Alex Gray. Tim Walsh there in the 13. You know, we went down with drivers that were inside the top 15 in points that were having pretty good seasons. Well, a couple of other drivers that were collected in this, you could add Tim Walsh to that list. He was 18th in points coming into this race. Not a whole lot of significant damage on his machine, but we'll have to see if it does affect him or not. The big one has struck here on lap number 2 at Coca-Cola. And we get set now for the restart. We have just now gotten the signal 1 lap to green, and boy, that pit stop really shuffled some things up. Some drivers going with fuel only, some electing to take some rubber, and it has definitely shuffled up our entire top 10. William Brock is now going to be restarting as the race leader with James Richardson in second. Patrick Smith will line up third. Zach Rogers fourth, and fifth will be Eli Bright. Then it's Dylan Young, Zach Winkle, Johnny Gardner, Austin LaPlante, and Seth Cole. That'll be your top 10. You see Tim Walsh and Phil Parker line up on the inside line. They will be off the lead lap, both 1 lap down. We also have 2 laps down, the 42 of Kyle Keith, who is still sitting on pit road, and also some significant damage on the 10 of Angel Navarro, who currently is being scored on the tail end of the lead lap. He's trying to catch up. But must have had something happen under caution, because Shane Lake is now retired out of the race, as has Ryan Brommer. So they will not be finishing out this event. We also saw that damage on the 10 of Navarro, so that might have had something to do with it. And officially out of the race, involved in that wreck, are the cars of Levi McIntyre, Zach Flickinger, James Shelly, J Jefferson, Isaac Nicholls, and Dallas McIntosh. 5 out of those 6 retirees were Fords. Sorry, I gotta itch my ear for a quick thing. There we go. So the driver that came to pit road as the race leader was Brenna Carmichael, and he's going to be starting all the way back in the 11th position. So definitely these pit stops and some varying strategies shuffling up the field. As we get set to go back green, he'll be on lap 7 of 26, and William Brock will be the one that will lead us to this green flag. Now we know Tim Walsh and Phil Parker got some damage getting involved in that caution, but the question is, are they up to speed and can maybe battle their way back onto the lead lap here? And it looks like we're getting our answer. Really no decrease in speed between the 13 and the 30, but that outside line definitely going to get the run down this straightaway. Zach Rogers going to try the bottom of the racetrack. He's got Eli Bright and Johnny Gardner with him, but up top, Brock, Richardson, Smith, all nose to tail, and as soon as I say that, here comes the Skittles Pontiac Grand Prix, looking for the race lead. Richardson 16th in the point stands. A win can move him into the top 10. And he will get a very valuable bonus point for leading that lap, as Patrick Smith now across the nose of the DuPont Chevrolet, and Zach Rogers going to slide in to try and battle for second with William Brock. Looks like the outside line's the preferred line on the straightaways. That line's getting the most speed, maybe because drivers are able to get themselves lined up nose to tail a little bit better that way. Oh, look out! Kyle Keith came back on the racetrack in the 42, but it looks like the inside line is the preferred line when you get into the corners. That 42 car, I don't know if it's just slow because he came back on track from pit road and it has to get up to speed, or if that car may be down a cylinder. And we got some more drivers coming to pit road. That's Preston Plourd in the 18, the 22 of Tony Green, and also the 77, I believe that was, of Joseph Srigley. Now, the question is, why are they coming to pit road? Are they expecting that they have to pit at least one more time? Very interesting. Zach Rogers, 2-time winner this season, out in front. Austin LaPlante right there in second. Is this a little bit of deja vu? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these are the drivers that finished first and second at, was it Bermuda or was it the race before? At Dragonette. Take a look. I'm almost certain this is a 1-2 from somewhere. Oh, no, I guess not. No, I'm thinking back to LaPlante finishing podium at Daytona. Zach Rogers, though, I mean, what a season he's had. 5 starts, 2 trips to victory lane. As you see the 22 of Tony Green just now leaving pit road. Now that inside line's starting to get some momentum. Michael Norman leading the charge. Johnny Gardner and Emmanuel Hartnett down there with him. Norman may have a pretty good run on the 24 going down here into turn 3. They're 3 wide for third. LaPlante way up top. Outside of the gray area, there's no grip there, really. Nobody really wants to go up there. Well, how about this? The 24 and the 3, 2 of maybe the most iconic numbers in NASCAR, going to go battling for the lead. Norman going to go for the top spot. Hartnett says, thank you very much. I'm going to take it 3 wide, as Hartnett's going to go to the top position. Johnny Gardner going to offer the drafting help, and he'll now move into second. Mentioned two drivers came into this race as the current wild card position holders, Benjamin Miles and J Yepez. We saw Miles do a great job of avoiding that only caution we've had today. The one of J Yepez has now fought his way up. He just took 5th place away from Zach Rogers. And you think back to those two drivers before they went to victory lane. J Yepez was dead last in points, Benjamin Miles 38th. It's amazing what a difference a trip to victory lane will do. I mean, you look at J Yepez, look at his last 2 starts and with where he's running right now. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he ended up taking the checkered flag at Hillside, and last week at M&M Superspeedway followed up with a 5th place finish there. So he is definitely a man on a roll now. This is the guy that had a 39th place average finish for the first 3 races of the season. Gardner now out in front in the 46. And they seem more content to battle for 2nd place right at the moment than run down that first Union Chevrolet Monte Carlo for the top position. Hartnett side by side with Norman, who's got a teammate right behind him, and J Yepez, and there's J Richardson there in the 36. They almost thought about 4 wide, I think, down there into 1. And Richardson was not able to quite get to the left rear quarter panel of the Pennzoil Chevy. As now Zachary Fitzwater has moved up into the 6th position. Fitzwater 2nd in the points. The driver he's trying to beat today would be the 75 of Steve Morgan, who we really haven't seen up at the front at all. Fitzwater came into this race 9 points behind Morgan for the top position in the standings. They're about to catch, I believe that's, oh no, I'm sorry, I thought that was a slower car, but it's Gardner with a pretty good advantage. Let's see where the 75's even at. Steve Morgan, there he is. Back at the tail end of this lead pack and scored in the 19th position. Right now, with where Fitzwater's running, Fitzwater would currently be the points leader heading into next week's race. Dylan Young, side by side with Eli Bright. This is a battle that is going on, I believe, for around the 7th position. Looks like Bright will hang on to the spot for the moment. Ace Garcia in this mix, as well as William Brock, who led us to the green flag for the restart. Zach Rogers, Zach Winkle back here, as well as the top 4 are now single file. Got to go all the way back to the 9th position to find a former winner this season. So right now, a lot of the drivers in the top 5 looking for their first win of the season. But the thing I really am very curious about is we saw before Preston Plourd, Tony Green, and Joseph Swigley all come to pit road. Oh, I just realized the 4 of Benjamin Miles does have damage, and I gotta wonder if that was something to do with Shane Lake and A Navarro, and who's the other car that retired out of the race due to damage? Ryan Brommer. And we have gotten word Navarro was taking his car behind the wall. And that's one of the wild card drivers coming into this race, and the whole rear end housing gone on the Kodak Max Chevy 1 week after his trip to victory lane. You see Joseph Swigley there in the 77 now going a lap down. He was one of 3 drivers in particular I was looking at that came to pit road. And there might be a buckle on the hood of that car. Yeah, there is. He's got some damage. So it may not have exactly been strategy for Swigley coming to pit road. He may have actually been coming to pit road trying to get some aerodynamic back in that machine. As a change for the lead, Fitzwater takes the top position away with help from Eli Bright from Johnny Gardner. Also a lot of damage on the 31 of Joshua Ciculli. No hood. Charles Sandfer, a lot of rear end damage on his Pontiac. We know JT Bryant and Justin Zajdel were involved in the wreck. There's Preston Plourd. Now, I don't see any damage on his car, and neither do I on Tony Green. These are the 2 drivers, I guess, then that I would focus on as far as that strategy that it looked like was happening. They have been to pit lane. If these drivers cannot make it on fuel, this could cycle around in favor of the 22 and the 18. The only thing they don't really have in their favor right now is the fact that they're not in a pack. So they're not producing nearly as fast lap times as these guys up here at the front. Oh my goodness! Johnny Gardner tried to go to the outside of Ciculli. Ciculli moved up, maybe to just try and get out of the way, but he took away the line that Gardner was trying to run, and we nearly had a wreck right there on the front straightaway involving a lap car. That was a close call. This is a battle for third. Z Winkle, Zach Rogers, J Gardner, Emmanuel Hartnett all involved in this battle, as right now it is the 9 and the 8. Reverse numbers. Well, not reverse, but I guess going in reverse order. Fitzwater out in front, Bright in second, and there we go. Bright and Winkle and Young and Gardner are coming to pit road, so this says to me they can't make it. Now, remember, the 18 and the 22 came to pit road a couple laps after we went green. The question being now, does that mean they are good to go on fuel? So they short pitted all these other drivers. I don't know if they're stretching it as far as it can go, or if they're just making sure they have insurance to make it to the end. Not exactly 100% sure what the fuel window is. They're pitting about 16 laps after they pitted under caution. You gotta wonder if maybe these are some drivers that didn't completely fill it full of fuel to be able to gain track position when pitting under green. Although that would kind of take away all of that scenario, because William Brock was first off of pit road, and he's actually one of the drivers that is staying out at this current point in time. A Garcia now cycles to second. Third place would be A Carmichael. Seth Cole in fourth, and looks like Alex Gray's in fifth. Alex Gray got a little piece of the wreck that brought out our only caution so far today, but apparently that has not affected him speed-wise. Now the question is, do we see Brock and Garcia come to pit road this time, or do they try stretching it an extra lap? Looks like Brock's going to come to pit road, as will Garcia. A Carmichael, though, will stay out. Just about everybody else is coming to pit road, so it looks like the last car that we would be waiting on to complete the cycle of pit stops would be the 73 of A Carmichael. This is almost deja vu from last week at M&M SuperSpeedway, where in the closing stages it came down to pit strategy. Although in this case, we're going to have somewhere around 3 to 5 more laps to be able to battle it out for things to cycle out. It was down to about 2 to go, white flag lap that the pit stops took place in last week's race. So A Carmichael will be the last driver to hit pit road. As things stand right now, I think the drivers we would have to focus on would be right here. Fitzwater and Eli Bright, because these were the two that were battling for the race lead before the pit stops began. And Eli Bright has just now gone around Zachary Fitzwater. So if they are able to cycle around one more lap and get out ahead of the 73, I would think Eli Bright would be the driver that would take the top position. Saw him just now passing, I think that was William Brock, who was scored second. And now Eli just has to catch the 73 and pass him to take the top position back, I do believe. And if that's the case, it's going to get turned into the tale of two tandems. Bright Fitzwater, and then Rogers and Winkle, who are right now battling side by side. I'm going to watch for the 73. Where is A Carmichael as Fitzwater going to take a look? Can't quite get to the left rear. There's the 73, just now leaving pit road. And so that's going to cycle the top position back to the, well, not cycle it back, but cycle it around to Eli Bright. Fitzwater would be second. Third would be Winkle. Rogers in fourth. Gardner fifth. Patrick Smith is in sixth. Points leader, Steve Morgan, now up to seventh. So those pit stops certainly cycled around well for him. Eighth place would be, I believe, William Brock. Let's see if the scoring monitor agrees with me on that. It does. And then right now, A Carmichael would be in ninth with J Richardson, currently scored in 10th place. And the one guy that does not want to see the 75 doing well is the driver running second, Zachary Fitzwater, because now Steve Morgan is only 6 spots behind the 9, which means he would be only gaining 6 points in the standings as far as position-wise, which would put him at 3 points back still from Steve Morgan heading to next week. That is if Steve Morgan manages to just finish in 7th and Fitzwater finishes in second. Caution is out! The yellow flag is out. I'm looking to see if the speed is decreasing. Are we under caution right now? It looks like we are. It is not a race back situation, and we had a spin, it looks like, on the back straightaway, which could very well end this race under the yellow flag. Eli Bright, I'm certain, would have no problem with that, as Fitzwater was definitely hounding him for that top position. Question is, who was it that spun? Not right 100% sure. Nobody on pit road. I don't know who it was that spun, but we'll find out here. They will come around and get 2 to go when they hit the stripe this time. Next time by will be the white flag lap. I don't see us getting back to green flag racing here. So I'm pretty certain this race will end under caution. So for now, let's take a look and see what brought out the second and final caution of the day. 1 week after his trip to Victory Lane, a bad day goes worse for Benjamin Miles. Right here, he thought he was going to be able to clear the 21 of N Stapleton, and Stapleton was still there. So that could have been either a driver error or a spotter error. Either one, thinking that he was clear, and he obviously was not. Benjamin Miles gets the worst of it, though, ends up being the one that gets spun around. And since he spun up on the racing surface, NRSL officials having no option but to throw a caution flag. So tough break there for the fans, not getting able to see a very crazy finish. And as I said, I mean, it's been a struggling day already for Benjamin Miles, trying to keep himself in the top 30 in the point stand to have his win count towards a wild card spot. And boy, the bad luck just keeps coming here today for him at Coca-Cola. And the timing on that caution was incredible too, because when the yellow flag came out, the leader Eli Bright was just exiting turn number 4. So if the caution had not been thrown maybe another 3 to 4 seconds, Eli Bright would have crossed the line before the caution came out, and we would have had at least one more lap to battle around potentially for this win. Regardless, the race probably would have ended under caution, but it wouldn't have given Fitzwater basically only half a straightaway to try and make a move on the 8. He would have had at least one more shot at Eli Bright. But regardless, the white flag just moments ago was displayed over the hood of the Circuit City Chevy Monte Carlo, and Eli Bright, who came into this race in 35th in points, is going to be going to Victory Lane. So the last 3 races, the driver that was 42nd in points wins, the driver that was 38th in points wins, and here this week, the driver that is 35th in points goes to Victory Lane. I mean, that's typical of these super speedways. They cater to the driver struggling in points, and we've seen a classic case of that in the last 3 weeks. Eli Bright, who finished off last season's Tax Slayer Truck Series with back-to-back victories in the last 2 races, takes him only 6 starts to find Victory Lane here in the NRSL Winston SuperSpeedway Series. Checkered flag at Coca-Cola goes to Eli Bright. And the battle for the points lead is going to be still awfully close heading into next week. I think it's still going to be Steve Morgan. I think it could be as few as 2-point separation between himself and Zachary Fitzwater, with Fitzwater finishing 2nd and Morgan finishing in 7th. See if the standings are official. I believe the field has crossed the line, and indeed the standings are now official. Eli Bright with the win. Fitzwater brings it home 2nd. Zach Winkle and Zach Rogers there. Don't know if they'd have had enough time to be able to catch the top 2, but they'll get 3rd and 4th. J Gardner was up front for a good portion of the second half. He'll get 5th. Patrick Smith brings it home in 6th. Steve Morgan will keep the points lead with a 7th place run. William Brock in 9th. Brenna Carmichael, or make that Brock in 8th rather. Brenna Carmichael in 9th. And James Richardson will complete the top 10. Rest of your top 15 were Seth Cole, Jonathan Zorling, Ace Garcia, Dylan Young, and Michael Norman. Your top 20 were Alex Rowe, Austin LaPlante, Alex, 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 Alex That pit strategy did not really work out for Preston Plourd or Tony Green. Plourd finished in 21st, and the 22 of Tony Green was 26th. You see the rest of the cars back there as well. Most of them got involved in a wreck one way or another and had damage. Zajdel in 24th, Sandfer in 25th. Green was the last car to finish on the lead lap. Drivers that finished off the lead lap included J Bryant, Joseph Wrigley, Joshua Ciculli, Phil Parker, Tim Walsh, Benjamin Miles. Kyle Keith, I believe, was a mechanical problem. He finished 3 laps down in 33rd, and the drivers that did not make it to the completion of the race were Angel Navarro, Shane Lake, Ryan Brommer, Levi McIntyre, Z Flickinger, James Shelly, J Jefferson, Isaac Nicholls, and Dallas McIntosh. Number of drivers that came into this race inside the top 10 in points struggling here today, including Navarro, Boyd, Wrigley, McIntyre, Zajdel, and Keith. So we could have some new faces pop up into the top 10 when we head into next week's race. And it's also going to be interesting as well with Eli Bright's win. Where does this situate him maybe in the wild card battle with Benjamin Miles and Diego Yepez? But we hope that you guys enjoyed today's race from Coca-Cola. It was great to be back here at this racetrack. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. We have shown you your full finish results, and these are your overall points heading into next week's race. Not 100% certain where it's going to be, so you'll find out at the same time that I do. But till then, you've been watching Production of the SRA, offline racing at its best. So long from Coca-Cola.